We're talking about the great state of Utah. I am on. Yeah, I'm on. And people are saying, well, you didn't finish everything that we talked about. So what we want to do is continue on this because I think it's important for you to understand change is happening. We just you got an echo.
It is.
It's talking. It's just echoing for some reason. I don't know why. Hear me twice? You don't want to hear me even more than once. But while we're getting this figured out, turn it down, that's better. Nope, still there. It's still there. Anyway, if you were here for Gwen's, this is really bizarre. It is. If you remember when Gwen was talking about Hawaii, how it's changed dramatically since she lived there, and she loves going back, but it's changed. Own rebirth, if you will. We talked a little bit about last week that Utah was discovered by the world when? The Olympics. When the Olympics came, we literally said we welcome the world to the state of Utah. And they did. We welcomed, and we had people from it, and suddenly we're not just this little podunk state that only has them, our Mormons in it. It's a worldwide state, and change happens. We see it now, and it's going to happen even more so as we go. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but first, I want to just ask you a question, and then we're going to go back to the video again so you can listen to that. And you got the microphone? Because I'm going to point it to you because I want people to respond. And Charlene, if you're listening, you're going to have to respond. Same thing with you, Dave Johnson. So you're going to have to unmute yourself sometime. Just be aware of that. In your mind, what makes Utah a pretty great state? Okay, you've got to have a microphone. You can't just say that there because the people there we go.
Families and the people.
Okay. What else? I'm serious. I want to know.
Climate, although 4 seasons aren't quite as distinct as they should be.
As they should be. I like that, as they should be. Okay, please. Connie, come on. You're ready, Clint. You're next.
The mountains.
The
Love the
mountains.
mountains.
Okay, just slide right over there to Clint.
The diversity of the landscape.
Diversity of the
Like
landscape.
the mountains, she said, but we also have the desert and the
Got the red
rock
rocks.
country. And
If you want to find something, go say, I want to have red dirt in my yard up here. See what it costs you to get that, to have it shipped from southern Utah up here. It's really unreal. Please.
Plus, we got the best national parks. There's at least 4 of them, and state parks.
7 state parks.
And they are fascinating, and millions are coming just for the parks
Just for the
alone.
parks. You do not want to go to Zion. Zion lets you know that you're from England or someplace else. Everybody in Utah calls it
Plus,
Zion.
we are
You
the
don't go to
happy
Zion
people.
National Park in July. You
Too
can't find a
hot.
place to park. It's wall-to-wall people. Angels Landing is just crazy. It's like trying to climb El Capitan in the summer too. You got wall-to-wall people. All right.
And don't forget, we are #1 happiest state in the
We're
country.
going to talk a little bit about that. Dave Johnson, unmute yourself. What makes Utah, in your mind, the greatest state?
We have clear blue skies.
Clear
Usually.
blue skies, except for an inversion.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't know if Charlene's on or she just has her phone on or whatnot. Okay. Anybody else that's online that wants to share something? I just see names, so I can't tell if you're here or just have it going. Crickets. All right, not a problem. We're going to show this video again. I want you to listen to what she called the transitions of the state of Utah, because Utah is in a time of transition. You see it now. You see it on State Street here in Utah Valley and all those things. So I want you to listen to what she has to say, and then let's talk about this, if you would, please. I'll turn the lights.
My review of the data would say that Utah's hit an inflection point. We're changing, and we always evolve, but we're starting to have big changes. I've found that there's several transitions that are occurring in our state, and that's the new Utah. The new Utah includes 6 transitions. The first is that we've moved from a small state to a mid-sized state. The second is that our growth is coming from the outside rather than the inside. The third is that we're starting to get older, and it changes our economy, changes our choices, changes who we are. The fourth transition is that we've moved from a monocultural state to a multicultural state, very racially and ethnically diverse. We have an elite economy, and so we've gone from a strong economy to an elite economy. And then finally, and this one's a difficult pill to swallow, but we're an expensive state, particularly when it comes to housing. The 2002 Olympic Winter Games were a major milestone for Utah, a world event. The biggest thing the Olympics did is it put a spotlight on Utah and Salt Lake City that was so bright that we had to get better in every way. You know, our restaurants had to get better, our infrastructure had to get better, our universities needed to get better, our airport needed to get better. And we did all that and got better, and people discovered us. The Olympic Games are absolutely a unifier. And if you think of the number of cities that are part of the Olympic family, it's a small group. We're there. Now, you know, we have a legitimate claim as a world city, as a city that has a rich and growing economy, a diverse economy. We've been a top performing state for over a decade with our economy. And that has enabled all sorts of opportunity, higher incomes, more choices for people in terms of what they do. It's brought a lot of people back to Utah that used to be elsewhere, that were born here, and now they've come back. So the prosperity's been wonderful for our state. But with that growth, with that success, we've got challenges in air quality, in housing affordability, sometimes losing some of the things that we really value. Look at what's happened to Great Salt Lake. I don't quarrel with the prosperity, but I do definitely believe that it requires policy choices that support that growth. One of the most important policy changes we need to make is we need to get comfortable investing more. We've been investing a lot, but we need to invest even more. When it comes to housing, that investment is in preserving affordable housing. And another thing we need to do is work with our local governments to permit more affordable housing, which requires a change in ourselves. You know, it requires us to say, that grandfather, that grandmother apartment next door is okay for me. You know, I need this in my neighborhood to have affordable housing for my children. So it requires behavioral change that is beyond government. Housing affordability is one of the most difficult public policy issues to get at. We used to have housing prices that were below or tracking the nation's, and now our housing prices are higher than the nation's. And that affects everything. It affects families that are trying to get into homes, young people trying to get into homes. It affects business, as businesses want to relocate, but they look at the housing costs and maybe don't want to be here. It affects higher education, because it's hard to attract students and faculty if they can't find an affordable place to live. We need a higher density product mix. And mostly, we need to build. That means you have to have the labor to build, it means you have to have the supplies to build, and it means you have to have the public policies that support building. I look at Kimball Junction in Summit County, Park City area. That's an intersection that needs more investment. So it's this combination of investing, listening, keeping an open mind, being willing to change. Because whatever we did in the past may not be as relevant anymore. How do we keep the things that made us great? How do we keep some of those collaborative, the pioneer stock kinds of hard work and commitment to community, commitment to a sense of place? How do you keep all those and still change? That's the question that our decision makers need to confront. Now, I would offer a couple of suggestions. First, we need to listen more. If Utah's changed, we got to be willing to listen to the new voices. they might have ideas. They'll bring perspectives that will make us better. A second thing that we need to do is keep an open mind. And, you know, it might be that in the past you didn't like school vouchers, but maybe in the future you might think that's a good policy choice. You got to keep an open mind about it. Maybe you don't want to charge more or pay more for water, but maybe in the new Utah, we got to price water appropriately for the scarce commodity that it is. What do I worry about? What's the biggest concern coming across my desk as a public policy leader in this state? It's division. It's a lack of unity. It's a lack of dignity in our discourse. I think it tears at who we are. I think that if we unite, if families and government and schools, churches, communities, businesses, if they come together, if we sing in harmony, so to speak, we can do almost anything. But when we fight, when we divide, when we have acrimony, when we have contempt in the things we say and do, that's not us. And unfortunately, it is our world right now, and it is our nation right now. And I have this great hope that Utah's a place where we don't let those influences change us. And especially as we're a new Utah that's become more integrated with the nation and world, it's so important that we remain connected to the things that make us great.
Okay. Let me turn the lights back on. You heard Natalie Gochner. She is the state's policy guru, if you will. She's got some, talking about the transitions. And last week we talked about some of those. We've moved from a small to a mid-sized state. Our growth is not in-house anymore. It is out of house. It's coming from outside. Used to be, it was all of our children or our grandchildren that would be staying here. Well, now it's people coming from other states that are moving to Utah. And you can see that in our housing prices. People can sell a house that's 800 square feet in California for $1.2 million. You now have $1.2 million, but you can buy a bigger house here in Utah with maybe even some land if you want it, that you couldn't do, you can't do in the other state, in the Golden State, if you will. So let's dive deeper into some of these things. And we're talking about housing last time, and I wanted to share with you part of an article. This was in the Deseret News. It says, weaker economic environment will further weigh on Utah's housing market, but not enough to budge affordability. Now, Gwen mentioned last week that she checks Zillow all the time to see what the housing prices are. So you know she's a real estate guru. She's always investing in all these different things. She wants to own all these different houses. But have you looked at affordability? And I asked this last week, and I want to ask it again. What is affordability to you? Margine, what's affordability? What's affordable housing to you? And you got to have a microphone, even though we have the echo. Sorry.
Affordable housing to me is what a person can afford for housing and still maintain an adequate living standard.
Okay. I like that. Anybody else? Dion, what's your thing of affordable housing to you?
I've got another thought, David.
Please.
I know the size of your home. Mine is probably smaller than yours.
Uh-huh.
What do people want these days? They don't want a house like you and me.
No, they don't.
Starter house, so.
New home, okay, from the state of Utah's Realtors Association says that the people now that are coming into Utah do not want a big yard. They don't have kids. They don't have a pet. They do not want to maintain a yard. They're looking for experiences, not for stuff. And so but they want convenience. I want to be close to shopping, entertainment, church, parks, those kind of things. So that's part of the reason why you're seeing these high rises, these townhomes, these duplexes, these multiplex homes being built. Because that's what is being asked. That's what people want. If you want to see something of that nature, go up to South Jordan and look at Rio Tinto's development called Daybreak. It's a planned development. Kennecott Copper owned the land. And when they started to develop it, they had specific restrictions that the homes had to have certain amount of yards. They were very small yards, but there was common areas. I don't know how many of you, maybe your grandparents had a back alley behind their house or a detached one-car garage or something back there. You know, where'd you get your cars? There's always the back alley. That was where everything, you know, went down. That's where the kids would play. Things like that. Well, that's what they've done there. That's what's looking at, but what's affordable? Are we pricing housing out of the market for these students? And I'm using the term loosely, but these young, married or single, doesn't matter what, these mid-20s, early 30s, actually, that want to say, I want to live in Utah. I want to set my roots in the great state or the new Utah. Are we pricing it out of their market? Gwen?
I just saw where if you want to buy a $500,000 house, which is a little house now, or a condo, you have to have an income of $152,000 with a 7% interest on the mortgage now. So that means 2 workers in a home or 1 with a very good job. And still you're living from month to month. It's very, very difficult.
The median, I'm going to read this to you. The median income household in Salt Lake City Metro could only afford about 21% of the homes that are sold in that area. Home ownership is becoming a fading dream for people. They're saying, I'm just going to rent. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to rent because I can't afford it. And affordability is what it is. Please. Oh, it is. Where's my thing on renting? I looked at 15% of Utah's renter households have enough income to purchase a modestly priced $300,000 to $400,000 home. That's modestly priced. I find that just amazing when I built my house. There doesn't appear to be much hope for them in the near future, as interest rates and housing prices will continue to exclude the growing share of households in the state of Utah. Prosperity is high. I mean, you can get great jobs here, but can you afford it? I know of people in Utah that will commute literally from Goshen, Nephi, and Juab County to come to work in Utah Valley or even Salt Lake because they can afford down there, even though it costs more to come up this way with gas prices and things of that nature. So we're in a state of transition. What can we do? You know, some of the things she talked about, one of the things, we're a diverse state. We understand that. We're expensive. But how about climate change? Does that affect us as a growing state, as the new state of Utah? Is it an issue? Or is it just a political verbiage, wokeism, or something like that? You'll have to make your own decision on that. And I say that you have to make the decision because if you don't, who's going to make it for you? Others will. The government will. Your elected officials will. Or unelected officials, the committees will. You have to be informed. What's going to happen? I want to share with you a couple other things. We talked about affordable housing. We talked about, if you listen to what she was talking about, there may have to be some changes with schooling. You know what the big change in schooling, outside of changing districts and things like that? I don't want to get into that at all. But what is the big change in Utah with schooling? Anybody know? Past school principal and teacher, come on.
When I think of immediate or relatively new changes in education here in Utah, I think of the voucher system that was totally changed
Big
last
time.
year. And I can see benefits from that, but I also see a lot of possible complications.
Everything that you're going to see, all the changes that we're going to see, and you're going to see them in our lifetime. Everything we're going to see, there's two sides to the coin. How many of you have heard of 4-day school? How about year-round school?
It's kind of off.
You're seeing more school districts that are going, you know what? We're going to go 4-year. I mean, not 4 years, excuse me, 4-day school. I said 4 year, I apologize. 4-day school, not 5 days, but 4 days. Why? Why is that something that they're looking at? They want a place for the students to be. Instead of saying we're going to go from 9 till 2:45 or something like that, they're going 8:30 or earlier to a little bit later, longer days, because there's no place for the children, because mom and dad work. So where do the kids go? Please, Margene.
Another change that was gradually coming, and now I think it's coming very quickly, is full-day kindergarten.
Oh. I don't know how many of you followed the legislature last year, but that was a hot topic. Widely debated in the legislature. It may not have hit a lot of the news people, but full-day kindergarten. Oh my goodness. This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. My kids are going to get better education. They're going to start school early. They're going to be great. And then that's the thing of, you're taking my children away from me. And others, it's, oh, great. My kids go away. I can work. I'll be honest. Those are the comments that were coming up. Pros and cons. Full day kindergarten. Is it good? Is it bad? You have to look at it. Please comment.
I understand the reason they had summer off in the first place was it was agricultural kind of community, and the kids had to help work in the summer on the farms. So
yeah.
they just had summer off.
Traditions die hard. In Utah, we had a thing called fall break. What was the reason for that? Deer hunt. It was the deer hunt. You can't say that though. It's not the deer hunt. It's time for harvesting. Oh, we can't say that either because not everybody's in the farm. So then I was just gonna say, then it was UEA conference. And I don't know how many teachers, but I know a lot of teachers that go, UEA conference, I ain't going to that thing. I mean, it was just, but fall breaks. Year-round school. Well, okay, that sounds like a great thing. But my child over here in elementary school has this time, junior high has this time off, high school has this time, and we've got sports that go all the time. Oh my goodness. Pull whatever little hair I have left. It's confusing, but it's coming. Change happens. What's the best for the most people? Well, I don't like it. Is that's your opinion? That's good. That's bad. I don't know. You have to think about it. How about what I would call grandparent apartments? We talked a little bit about that last week, where you rent out your basement or something of that nature, not a shed, though I have seen some people that have tried to do that, rent out a shed, but you rent your basement out because it's kind of tough to afford your housing or your property taxes that suddenly went up. Well, I'm helping them. I'm helping my grandchildren because I want them to live with me. So they're in my basement. Suddenly you have two families, two distinct families that don't always get along. And now the permitting process in some places is very lax. So you can just say, come in here and get it. It used to be in some of the cities, it was very tight. You could not rent your basement out without getting a separate permit, without getting a separate electrical system. Everything had to be totally separate. How did they figure this out? How did they figure out that you were renting your house out? You want me to tell you the secret that some of the cities used? Do you have extra mailboxes? I kid you not. They would say apartment, they would say, my house is 861 West, 1100 North. They would say 861, 1100 North, A or B, and they're beyond that on the mailbox. The city had some of the cities had people that would drive around and they go, oh, there's one house, but there's two mailboxes. This is interesting. Not in my neighborhood, not in my backyard. NIMBY, you hear that a lot. Well, they got to have someplace. What's a big concern with having more people in your house? Gwen brought up a comment last week, and I'm not picking on Gwen, but she brought up a thing of families. I have an extended family that lives in my house. It may be a 3-bedroom house, but I've got 5 families that live in this house. And guess what? They all drive a car. So where do I park all these cars? Well, I park them on the lawn. Well, you can't do that because they'll get upset at you. Well, I'll park them all on the street. You can't have that many cars on the street. Well, I happen to have a big trailer. I'm going to park my trailer on the street. No, I'm going to park it. Do you see the concerns that the city start coming up, like going, what's going on? The infrastructure. What are we going to do? How can we make it work?
And I have an awful time getting out of my driveway.
Because they blocked it.
Well, there's just so much traffic on my street. Now, I'm on one of those streets that's just off the center part of Provo. And I can look both ways. I'm clear.
Oh, sorry.
By the time
can't laugh.
I'm a fourth of the way out of my driveway,
Oh.
one side or another, there's a car that's right there to tailgate me.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So she brought up a thing of we need to look at diverse housing. Ladies and gentlemen, townhomes and apartments are part of our life now. It may not be your life, but it could be your grandchildren or your children or your neighbors. It's there. Whether you like it or not, it's there. How do you make it work for you though? Some of the cities have said, we're going to put height requirements. We can only have so many stories, 3, 4, 5 stories. But it's similar to the old tale of the camel with its nose in the tent. The camel pokes its nose in the tent. You let the camel have its nose in the tent. Pretty soon it's the head. Pretty soon the whole camel's in there. Well, we let Sharon build a townhome, some townhomes that were 2 stories, just, one on top of it. That's not that big, that big. Well, but I can do one even better. Gloria's over here saying, I can do it similar, but I need to have 3 stories. And Marjean's over here saying, I can give some quality housing for the city, whatever the city is, but I really need it to be a lot taller. And it's not going to be ugly. It won't be a concrete monster. It will look beautiful. We'll have little patios for them upstairs that are only, this, whatever. But I need it to be 5 stories. So I'm going to go to the planning commission, because that's who makes the decisions first before the city council, and say, here's the benefit. Here's the benefit, because I'm going to be paying taxes on this, this, and this, and this. It's not a big tax thing because it's housing. So the city doesn't get anything other than the building. But here it is. That sounds pretty good, because that's going to keep people in here, because we are Family City USA. We are Tree City USA, whatever you want to call it. It's keeping people here. So yeah, I guess we'll approve it. Boom. Well, if Marjean got it, I want it as a builder. I want it as a developer. That's what happens. Please, go on.
Not one word has been said so far about how we have to look at the infrastructure. The water table does not really supply that kind of explosive inner city growth. We got to look at that. They've got to cap that at a certain point. because we are a drought,
We are the
dry
second-
desert state.
We are the second driest state in the nation, and I'm not talking about liquor. We are the second driest state in the nation, even though we had a great water year, and we are dry. A best example for the state of Utah, go out to Skull Valley. Out past Tooele, out that way to the west side of the state of Utah. Not so much our development, but it's a neighboring states wanting to take the water table, the aquifers are going down, and literally the ground is sinking. The ground is sinking. Go out to Skull Valley, you look at it, and the farmers out there, for one thing, they can't water because their wells aren't deep enough to hit the aquifer anymore, but the ground is sinking because the water's being used someplace else. We love our lawns. What about a drought tolerant yard? You don't have to have gravel. I do landscaping and I do energy efficiency. And people say, oh, I'm going to put rock around my house. That's probably one of the worst things you can do because that's a giant heat sink. If you don't believe me, walk around places and then just walk underneath a tree. Tell the temperature difference. So grass, can we do something other than grass? Oh yeah, there's lots of native plants that you can put in. But we have to look at things differently. Please, Margene.
You know, I have mixed feelings about this, but I think at some point, Utah has got to decide what we want and what we can afford as far as people. We're very proactive in terms of bringing in new business
Oh, yes.
to Utah. Tax breaks, you know,
Oh,
a lot of benefits.
I'm not going to get started on that
Yeah,
one.
well, I won't get started.
That's a whole nother class.
I'll just say that it's reality.
It is.
And we all want to see Utah grow reasonably. But speaking of infrastructure, I worry a little bit that we're going to allow Utah to grow beyond what we can accommodate with infrastructure and housing, and
You mean bigger isn't better?
not necessarily.
And Margene hit a good thing. I'll let Gwen make a comment after I say this. It's the thing of what do you want and what do you need? But then also, I throw in the next term, what is realistic? Explosive growth. If you want to see explosive growth, go down to this fine little city that's just south of St. George in the corner of Nevada. Look at that. Explosive growth of what happened in Vegas. If you want to see real explosive growth, go to California and look at the Bay Area by San Francisco, which used to be very rural and it just blew up. Lots of businesses came in. So economy went great. Bigger was better. So here we have it. We've got lots of businesses. Silicon Slopes, the brand new city that they want to build out in Vineyard. You've got some developments. Is this good? Is it bad? That's something you're going to have to, I shouldn't say you, we have to decide. Gwen,
Why
please.
can't we learn from California and Vegas and Hawaii? Learn. We got to cap something. Look at the traffic. It's just terrible. And it's going to get much worse.
I-15
Oh,
to
come
6
on.
lanes. Come on.
There's no speed cameras, nothing to curtail it, nothing to even deal with the growth we have now. What's going to happen 5 years, 10 years from now? It's going to be way worse.
What is your future? What is the future for Utah Valley where we live? I ask you if you want to take a look at what the prognosticators are putting. Go online and look up Envision Utah. Envision Utah literally has a 5, 10, 15, 30-year plan for growth along the Wasatch Front. Is it going to happen? All depends on the policies. As she said, policy changing, permitting process. Are we willing to learn from other cities and states? My grandson says, you know what would really be great is we need to get like they have in Europe, where you have a very strong rail industry. So instead of all cars, you have rails, you have trains going places. If you live back east in Boston, in New York, how many people there own a car? Very, very few. One, it's super expensive to park a car there, but two, they've got trains, they've got buses, they've got strong, subway, they've got a little bit stronger transportation. But, oh, wait, David, come on now. This is Utah. We have wide open spaces. We can't, we can't do something like that. I mentioned last week that there is an independent investor that's looking at putting a train, if he can get enough money, to go from Salt Lake to Vegas, from Vegas to LA. Not a high-speed train, but it's a train that would be going that way. And his comment was, you can gamble all day you want in Vegas, pick up the train about midnight, which is when you finally find out that you've lost all your money. And 6 hours later, you're in Salt Lake, you can stumble into work on Monday. That may be something in the future. Transportation, infrastructure is a big issue. Water is a very big issue. In my city where I live, they adjusted the water rates. There's a certain tier that they had in there. You use this much, you get the, use a bit more, you have less. I saw so many homes ripping out their lawns, literally just tearing the lawns out. Or they should have, some of them should have ripped up their lawns. But what was interesting is one house I know ripped up their lawns, and we were commenting about that, and my wife made the comment, well, it's just the two of them. They never go outside anyway. So who cares? So think about that. We're pricing younger people out of the marketplace with housing, with businesses. We got lots of businesses coming in. You hear about it all the time. This business is coming in here. This business is coming here. As I said, I point up here like this, Silicon Slopes, the growth out of Lehigh and Saratoga Springs. It used to be you could drive out towards Utah Lake and drive around Utah Lake, and what would you see? Sagebrush, jackrabbits, occasionally and antelope. You wouldn't see an elk, but you'd see the wild animals. What do you see now? Cars and houses, dramatically. But if you really want to see something, go up on the bench and look out at night to the west to see Utah Lake. And you'll watch the development and you'll see the lights, and I'm showing it like this, and all of a sudden it stops. Why? Why? I mean, it's a very strong demarcation line. Why is it that way? Anybody have any ideas? It starts with W. Water. They're on the wrong side of the mountains. It's getting water out there. It's really tough to get water out there for them. So that's something to look at. So how do we keep the great in Utah? How do we do this? We're talking about, we're getting a downer. So I want to give you some good news. Wall Street Journal last night, best 400 colleges in the state of, in the United States. They looked at 400 colleges. We have 5 colleges that are in there. Number 20 is what? That's the highest we've got. Nope. Weber is number 267. Who's number 20? U of U is number 43. BYU is number 20 in the nation for the best college education that can be obtained.
Well, they did a study here in Utah and they published it that you get more for your buck if you go to Weber State. I was so surprised.
More for your buck on that. Why is that? They've got a very strong tie-in to businesses to get your jobs and things like that. Anyway, I just want to share with that. Number 20 is BYU. 43 is the U. 267 is Weber. UVU, 278. And USU is 293. This is out of 400 major universities and colleges in the nation. So we've got a pretty good ranking for our education. We've got a pretty good education system. I don't want to knock that. We do. How do we make it great? How do we help this? And again, And she made a good comment. And I want to make this as we get ready to do some other things here. She made the comment about divisiveness. We are divisive and we're getting more and more so. And I'm not going to talk about nationwide because that's a whole another can of worms. But in the state of Utah, we are very divisive, not just in politics, but in other things. Your neighborhood. Well, I don't like these people. I don't know them, but they're different. They don't go to church on Sunday. So maybe they're heathens. Okay, hang on.
Oh, just,
Gerhard gets it first and then you.
oh, okay.
I got a piece of good news that was on the news last night. Maybe you
Okay.
didn't see it.
I didn't. I was in meetings all night.
I was tied up too. I didn't watch the 10 o'clock news till after midnight last night.
No,
But on housing, there are 5 major philanthropic projects that announced yesterday that they are. I was just looking up the details on it. They're announcing affordable housing specifically. Let me read this first section right here. In a philanthropic gesture aimed at the region's worsening lack of affordable homes, 2 Utah-based foundations announced plans Tuesday to build upward of 850 rent-subsidized dwelling units in 7 cities across the state. Their joint partnership, called Housing for Impact, will fund construction of apartments and townhomes over the next 3 years at choice locales in Salt Lake City, South Jordan, Draper, Magna, Lehigh, Francis, and Park City. Many of the housing projects will also be adjacent to community resources for seniors, families, and other groups in need. One of the things that goes on from my memory is a certain percentage of the housing will be available at market rental rates, but the rest of it will be subsidized for people making 80% of the median income for that area.
Oh, for that area. So it's
For
not
that area.
So it's not off of the
Yeah.
federal income
Yeah.
guidelines.
Anyway, so they're looking at a variety of things. The people involved with this include the biggest housing builder. Ivory Homes is one of the ones that's behind it. There is that are all working on funding this, and they're getting some federal, some state funding too. Because they're focusing on this affordable housing stuff for lesser, below the median income. Anyway, that was announced last night or yesterday on the news. That's not a lot, but it'll help.
It's something. That's good to know. Gwen,
Oh, mine was just about education.
please.
It seems like more and more people are in favor of charter schools, and a lot of my friends are trying to send their kids to that school in American Fork because it is so incredible.
Okay.
And there seems to be an interesting influence of new charter schools starting up, which gives a little bit of educational competition to everyone.
Yeah.
And turns out that we have more students graduating with higher math and science and reading abilities because of it.
Well,
So even though we're already good educationally, I think we're getting even better.
well, look at, I'm not pushing one school over another, but look at the new Ensign College.
Right.
What have they done that's totally different than most colleges? 3-year degree. A 3-year degree. Now, what that is, in a nutshell, is you're going to school basically full-time, and you're not taking any extra classes. You are taking classes specifically for whatever your major is. It's very focused, career-oriented, if you will, but it's very oriented to what you want to do, but it's shortening it up so you get out of school quicker. But I want to get back to, as we get ready, I want to touch on this divisive thing. Because to be honest with you, as David Wilson, it scares me. I seriously, when I made that comment, well, they're not the same. They don't go to church. I don't see them walking into my church. I don't see them going. So they're heathen. They're strange. They're different. Okay. Different is good. Different is good. I like to think that, and I learned this when I was a chaplain, is we don't want to be a soup as a group of people. We don't want to be a soup where everything gets together and it basically tastes the same. We want to be a salad where you can taste the difference, where you can taste it's a tomato, or it's a pepper, or it's a cucumber, or it's the lettuce, or it's the crouton, or it's the salad dressing. Everything has its unique taste. So we're not blended so tight that we're all the same. We like the difference. I hope you do. I hope you're willing to accept the differences that the state of Utah has, because it's getting more and more, we are more and more diverse, not all of the same major faith, not all the same race, ethnicity, or economic background. Everybody's different. So how do we address divisiveness? In Elder Quest, we have a class where the tagline was, we agree to disagree without being argumentative. I may not agree with Gloria with what she's doing and what she says, but I will stand behind you and give you the right to be able to have your opinion. We may not agree, but that's fine. Does that happen in the world today? Is it happen in the state of Utah? People like to say, hey, we're so unified and things like that. You want to see something interesting? Go up to the legislature in January. That's not half as much fun as going to some of the committees. See, the legislature is under a looking glass, a microscope. People watch them, but you go to the committee hearings. Oh my goodness. People will tell you where to go, how to get there, and everything else. People get very upset and very heated because they believe in something. And they figure the louder I am, the more people are going to listen to me. And you'll get your 15 seconds of news, fame, and whatnot. So how do you deal with divisiveness? How do we deal with it in the state of Utah? Give me some ideas. I'm serious. How would you deal? And I wrote down here, how can we truly come together? There's a lack of dignity in how we talk, act, and deal with others that are different than us. So what do we do? What can be done in the state of Utah? You have now been made king and queen of Utah. Congratulations. Now, what can we do? Gwen, and we go this way, and we're going to come along here.
I think it's just getting used to the fact that we're diverse now. We're getting used to it more and more all the time. And I think because of the civility and the foundation of decency in Utah, that it's inevitable that we are going to be together, even though we are made up of different religions, different cultures, different backgrounds, different socioeconomic scale. We'll come together because Utah has a foundation.
Okay. Anybody else, please? Okay. 1, 2. Which hand?
Look for the enrichment in the diversity. Somebody can say something to me that's just way out there.
I do it all the time, I know.
I just never thought of that. But when you stop to think about it a bit, there's something in there that does touch me. And another point,
okay.
Dignity. Treat other people with dignity.
Civility.
Civility.
We've gotten away from that.
And this is very personal.
Okay.
I have a Hispanic man that has been coming to help me in my yard for 5 years. He comes for 2 reasons. 1, to earn a little bit of money. 2, to hear a kind word. It took me a long time to realize that kind word meant a lot to him. Over the years,
Ouch.
I've learned something about his background. I still don't know a lot about him. but I know that kind word meant a lot.
Makes a
to him.
difference. Please, Connie has a comment.
We can always educate ourselves too on different nationalities and stuff. If someone moves into your neighborhood, look at how they've been brought up, how they've grown, I don't know how to say it. It's like when my kids or my grandkids get married, I always put a note. I gave one a quilt and I gave them a few rules. Agree to disagree. Says you cannot get two people together that have been brought up completely different and expect them to agree on everything. It's the same way it is with the world. If somebody moves into your neighborhood, a different nationality or something, get to know about it, study it a little bit and talk to them about it.
Talk to them.
Just talk to them and be reasonable.
How many of you grew up in the neighborhood? Now, when my neighborhood was, my closest neighbor was over a mile away, so there wasn't a really close neighbor. When somebody moved in or something, in maybe your church organization or your civic group, you brought them a loaf of bread or you brought them a plate of cookies when they moved in and said, hey, welcome to the neighborhood, something like that. I had a neighbor that moved in. There was a rental family. They moved into the house next door to us. And we baked him a loaf of bread and went over and, hi, we just live right over here next to you on the fence. You've probably seen our grandkids or something. We just want to welcome you to the neighborhood. Here's a loaf of fresh bread. Do you know the comment that was given? This has never happened to us before. And we've moved around a lot in Utah. Why did you do this? And well, we just want to welcome you to the neighborhood. Like I said, if you need anything, we're right next door. We know the house because I helped build it. So I know, we know where everything is, things like that, but just welcome to the neighborhood. And they were just dumbfounded. I mentioned that to somebody else and they said, yeah, we tried that once before and then we stopped doing it because people were just kind of, what's going on? They were concerned. They've seen the news reports, predators and knife wielding kind of thing or whatever. What happened to civility? What happened to saying hi, waving to people? I spent a lot of time in New Mexico, and the county that we are in, Colfax County, one of the first things they said is this county is a very friendly county. As you're driving along, you have to wave. We will know everybody that is not part of the county because they don't wave. And it's either, you're on the steering wheel, or if you know them, it's like that. It's never the one finger wave. You don't have the one like when he made the comment and said, this is what I saw in New York. It's definitely that now, but it's always, and this is cowboy country. You wave and you say hi to people and you may not even know them, but you say hi to them. How many of you have gone shopping in the South? In the South, and I'm talking about the Southeast, about Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, and gone to not the MIG stores or something like that, but go to the grocery stores. What happens? What happens in those grocery stores? Go ahead, what happens?
They want to know where you're from, where do you live, how many kids have you got? They want to know your name, and you have family in that store from that day on.
And what do they say?
Welcome.
Welcome. They say welcome, and how y'all doing?
They're
And
fabulous.
Thank you, and yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. Please, go ahead.
We went to Tennessee
Tennessee, yep.
and we went to Stoney's. I think that's the restaurant. It's like
Yes.
a buffet.
Yeah.
Anyway, the waitress that came over and was taking our order or asking us what we'd like to drink, she would look at my husband and say, "Hello, darling. I am so happy to
And
have
it's
you
not a thing of,
here."
hey, baby, let's go.
No.
No. It was,
And then she would say, "This is your wife?" I mean, we carried on a half-hour conversation.
and you don't even know them from Adam or Eve. Literally, you have no idea,
Yeah.
but they're
I
very
loved it.
friendly.
I'd go back and live there, maybe.
They're very friendly. And we can be that way here too. There are some stores that very honestly, they'll do that. They'll say, hi, how y'all doing? They won't say, how y'all doing? They'll say, how are you doing? Sorry. It just comes out that way for me. But people, there's some places that literally they do. They don't know you. But how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when somebody that, even though they don't know you, they just say, how you doing? Good to see you.
Doesn't matter where I go, I'd always talk to people. And they'd say, who was that? And I go, I don't know. And they say, well, why did you say hi? I said, my mom told me I was never any better than anybody else, but I was just as good. And so just say hi and be nice. And I do. I just say hi and talk.
So with all this, how do we come together as a state? As I mentioned, you're the now king and queen of the state. How do we come together? How do we deal with the divisiveness? One small step at a time, I understand that, but how can we do this? If you have an answer, great. If not, I want you to think about this. How can you come together? Please.
I think it starts mainly at home, teaching the young children how to have manners, how to say thank you and please, and be grateful for what they have. It starts in the home.
There you go. 2 minutes, and I want to start. I'm got to remember this real quick. Home, because I want to say something about that. As I said, there's dignity. Dignity is a key, and it's hard because we don't talk to each other. We go to work. We go to our home. We don't go outside. Houses don't have front porches that people sit on anymore, that they wave to the neighbors. We freak out our neighbors because we have a little porch out in the front of our house, and we'll sit out there at times and we'll just wave at cars, and I don't know who that guy is. Charlotte will go, who is that? I don't know. I just wave to him. Who knows? Just as long as you don't honk your horn at them. You never know. They might shoot you. But you want to start simple, little things. And Elder Quest, we've got lots of different people. Do you know each other? I'm going to pick on Margene. Is it okay, Margene, if I pick on you? I'm going to do it anyway, whether you let me or not. Margene is one of the best greeters we have in Elder Quest. She will go up to people as we start the semester. Hi, I'm Margene. Who are you? And even though you got your name tag, you can look at it so you remember who you are. Yeah, I do too. I put it in my pocket and I go, who am I? Yes, here we go. But she introduces herself and she greets people. It makes them feel good. How many of you greet the young ladies here at the front desk? Say hi to them. Do you remember what their names are? Yeah, that's the afternoon one. I wrote them all down. I want to read them in the morning. We have Leah, Brooke, Maddie's in the afternoon. That's Mad D, not Matty, Maddie with D's, 2 D's, and Brittany. Those are the new ladies that are out there in front. Say hi to them. It's kind of interesting to see what happens. Because I've gone up and said, have they said hi to you? And they get this grin on them and say, we don't know who these people are, but they say hi to me. They say hello. Awesome. Sorry. I had brownies for him. You made the comment, Gloria, and I want to close this discussion with this. We were talking, we talk about all these transitions, and you remember her transitions that we have from a small to a mid-sized state. Our growth is from the outside now, not the inside. We're getting older as a general population. We are diverse. We have an elite economy. We're also an expensive state. And she made the comment that change is happening. We're going to have to deal with that. Change will be here. How do we do that? It starts at the home. Home first. Everything else after that. Thank you for listening to me ramble on. Tomorrow we've got The World and I. Friday we've got our day trip, chocolate, and just have a great afternoon, people.